Hi everybody, this is the instructor video for chapter 6, and this is really going to be one of the last chapters that we cover that is laying the foundation for understanding what family therapy, family counseling is all about. Beginning next week, we'll start to really go into how to do family counseling and what it feels like to be a family counselor, and learn more about some of the specific models and approaches to working with family groups. But for now, we're going to stick with the ethical and legal professional issues in family counseling. We'll cover a lot of different things in this video. I'm just going to highlight some of the issues that I really want you to focus on and to be aware of, or if I think that it might be something that comes up on the CBCE or the NCE exams, then I'll be sure to address that, and wherever appropriate, I'll pull in an example. So ethics, as always, with all of the work that we do, it's really, really important to understand that we have a code of ethics that unifies us as a profession, and that's something that is separate and different than our own personal values. However, we recognize much more today in the field of family counseling that our personal values do influence the work that we do. We can't be completely neutral, so what we have to do is be very, very in touch with what our personal values and ethics are, and especially as family counselors, because family values is a term in our culture in the United States at this period of time that has been kind of hijacked by politicians from any political party, and thrown around to generate emotion in potential voters, and that, so that term sometimes carries connotations with it that can be a real turnoff to some people, be misrepresented to other people. But family is something that everybody has a lot of emotion and opinion tied to what family should be, and so everyone has family values. It's just trying to understand what those family values are. And as a family counselor, it is not ethical to use family counseling situations to push your own values. So you have to do this balancing act of knowing what the profession's values are and using those to operate ethically according to the code of ethics. But you also have to be really in touch with what your personal values are, so that you don't have blind spots, so that you don't actively seek to try to push your own agenda onto your clients. It's really important as well that that you be open with your clients, that the families that you work with, about what your own values are and what your own biases might be, and that through supervision you continue to address those biases so that you can work with more people from a broader point of view, rather than just only working with people that are like you. In family counseling, it's just as difficult as individual counseling, but it's even more complex. And because there's more than one person in the room and these people have relationships with each other, it's really important that you have a model for how you make good decisions, ethical decisions as a family counselor. For me, I had one family that I worked with that I had to actually go to court for and take the stand with. And so a lot of family counselors will find themselves being asked to do custody hearings and things like that. If you choose to go into family counseling, you're going to need to decide early on whether or not you will participate in those, and how you will set up a fee structure for that, because they take up a lot of time and they can be very contentious, getting involved in custody hearings and things. So I was involved in one case, and that was there was a lot going on in it, some custody issues, some parental substance abuse and neglect, foster parent situation with the children, and just a lot of different layers of things that were going on that made it a particularly complex case. And then the case went to court. And so what I had to do in making ethical decisions was to consult with my supervisor a great deal, and to record some of the counseling work that I was doing and share it with my supervisor, and look at journal articles with similar issues going on, and just really try to get a really well informed point of view about how I was going to make decisions, and what I was required to share in court and what I was not required to share. So there are guidelines out there to make ethical decisions, and it's not that you wake up any day and decide to be ethical or unethical, but it's a series of decisions that keep you moving down an ethical path. These meta-ethical principles are really the background values of our profession. And so these are things that you really need to know and be able to see on an exam, like the one in this class, or the CPCE or the NCE, and be able to read an applied example of what autonomy is, and to be able to identify that. In a test question, you might get an example of a counselor who is not applying the meta-ethical principle of autonomy, and you need to be able to identify, well, this counselor was not applying specifically autonomy. So basically what I'm saying is you need to be able to understand these principles from an applied point of view. So autonomy is the right of individuals to make decisions and choices. As much as possible, we want our clients to arrive at decisions that are good for them. It's not our place to tell clients what to do. We help clients to arrive at decisions that fit for them. We really, really, really want clients to be empowered to operate on their own. That's why taking rights away in the situations of involuntary commitment is such a huge deal. It should be really, really extreme. It shouldn't happen very often, because a meta-ethical principle of our profession is client autonomy. Next one would be that we just don't want to harm people, and below that we want to do good, and below that we feel that it's really important as a profession that we convey that we're trustworthy, that we're loyal, that we follow through with what we say we're going to do, and finally with justice, that we treat people equally, that we are willing to put aside our own values, to work through our own biases, and to always try to meet our clients where they are, understand the world through their eyes, try to respect their point of view, and not push our own agendas onto our clients. Common ethical concerns that will pop up is confidentiality. In family counseling, confidentiality becomes a little bit more complex. So if you're working with a group of 5 family members, let's say 2 parents and their 3 children, and a parent wants to come in and see you individually, then you can't take what's discussed in that one-on-one individual session and bring it up in the next family session where you're back together with all 5 of the people involved. So if you ever have appointments with any one person in that family unit, and then you get the whole family group back together again, you need to be really transparent and clear and upfront about what information is confidential to individual sessions and what information is confidential to family sessions. And you don't ever want to be put in the situation where one family member is trying to make you be a secret keeper, and they're calling you on the phone or requesting individual sessions and telling you information, but they're not willing to bring that up in the family counseling situation. So you don't want a husband to disclose an affair and then be in couples counseling, and you know through individual counseling that that husband has disclosed an affair to you, yet he's not bringing it up in the couples session that you're doing with the wife. You really want to avoid those situations where that might happen. Gender issues are really important because we all grow up in a society where there are gender role stereotypes, and we try to wipe the slate clean so that we look at people from a very equitable point of view. But gender gets played out in families, and so we need to be sensitive to that. We need to be sensitive to how that impacts how parents raise their children, how couples interact with each other, how power is distributed across families, and then also we need to be aware of how our gender is perceived by the families that we work with, and try to use that to help the family to move forward. So obviously, hopefully obviously for everyone, sex between therapist and a family member, huge no-no, don't ever do it. This is you will get your license revoked. Do not have sex with clients. Do not have sex with clients' family members. Theoretical techniques are some of the theoretical techniques that we're going to talk about later in the semester can be a little bit controversial, and we'll even share, I'll share a video that of Carl Whitaker, who's associated with experiential family therapy, and you can see how some of the techniques that he uses even are some things that you just want to proceed with caution with. So ethical concerns, be careful with some of the theoretical techniques. Multicultural therapy issues, this is really important too, because multiculturalism really emphasizes cross-cultural counseling relationships where the counselor represents one racial, ethnic, gender, socioeconomic, sexual orientation, and the client represents another. When you're in a family unit, the counselor represents their personal identity. The family as a whole has a culture of its own, and then everybody in it has their own cultural identity too. And so sometimes those things are at odds with one another. And then the use of the internet for online therapy, you can read through your book to see a little bit about some of the things that were discussed there. When you are avoiding unethical decisions, again, just consult, get supervision, study real live cases, make sure you have a clear sense of what your theoretical perspective is, and as you move through counseling, and develop policies and strategies beforehand, especially as it relates to working with family violence. And we'll have a unit in class to talk a little bit more about family violence. You really can't do a lot of therapeutic work until you establish safety in the family. So know what your plan is when or if you uncover family violence. So if you're ever in a situation where a colleague that you're working with is acting in an unethical way, you really are going to want to follow these steps, discuss that violation directly with that professional, which could be a hard and uncomfortable conversation. If you feel like you can't do that, then you have to report it, and you really want to report it to the licensure boards. The licensure board is there to protect the public, and you think that I hope that you think that these cases are rare when somebody is acting unethically, but they are out there. And it's really, really important that you as a counselor, that you as a professional are willing to step forward and protect the public by letting the licensure board know if a colleague is acting in a way that goes against the professional values. Sometimes in North Carolina, some cases that will come up often are not often, but of the cases that come to the board's attention, sometimes they are related to a counselor having sex with a client. And it is very traumatic for that client to come forward to the licensure board and to make that complaint and to open up and share all of the circumstances of that situation. So we have to be really cognizant of just how difficult it can be for a client to make that report. But it's really important that the board protect the public by regulating and overseeing members of the profession.